It started with a strange kind of quiet, the kind of quiet that feels wrong, like the world forgot to breathe for a moment. People online brushed it off as a rumor at first. Someone said it in a comment section, someone mentioned it in a fan group, someone whispered it in a late-night thread. But slowly, painfully, dread began to settle in, and when the confirmation finally came, it felt like a punch to the chest. Cleto Escobedo III was gone. The legendary saxophonist, the heart of the Jimmy Kimmel live band, the man whose easy smile could disarm even the toughest comedian, whose music could shift a studio's mood instantly, had suddenly vanished from this world. Fans didn't know how to process it. He wasn't the kind of celebrity who made noise. He wasn't embroiled in scandals. He wasn't chasing headlines. He was simply Cleto. Kind, warm, funny, soft-spoken, talented beyond measure, and deeply loved. But what made this loss hit harder than anyone expected wasn't just that Cleto died, it was what happened at his private funeral. A funeral so quiet, so intimate, so deeply personal, but only a small circle of the closest family and friends attended. And at the center of it all was a man the world knew well, but had never seen like this: Jimmy Kimmel. The late-night host, who always had jokes ready, who always carried himself with ease, suddenly looked smaller, quieter, almost fragile. People who saw him that day said he looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks, someone who wasn't just grieving a colleague, but a brother. Before the funeral, Jimmy had been silent. No tweets, no statements, no long monologues on his show, nothing. The public waited for him to speak, expecting a tribute on television. But Jimmy said nothing at all. And that silence was louder than anything he could have said. Those who knew the two understood immediately why. Jimmy and Cleto weren't co-workers. They were childhood friends. They knew each other long before fame, before success, before Hollywood transformed their lives. They grew up together. They chased dreams together. They built an entire show around their dynamic, a partnership fueled by trust, humor, music, inside jokes, and a kind of brotherhood Hollywood rarely ever sees. The funeral room was small, softly lit, the kind of room that feels like a blend of grief and love at the same time. Candles flickered, flowers lined the casket, photos of Cleto were placed everywhere, him holding a sax, him leaning on Jimmy's desk during commercial breaks, him laughing backstage with the band, him hugging his father, him smiling at the audience like he always did. People walked in slowly, holding tissues, holding hands, holding the weight of decades of memories. Some hugged, some cried immediately, some stood quietly staring at his photograph, unable to look away. When it was time for people to speak, the room listened to stories that were sometimes funny, sometimes painful, sometimes full of nostalgia. His family shared childhood memories, how Cleto always played music loudly in the house, how he would learn songs by ear within minutes, how he could brighten anyone's mood by simply stepping into the room. Friends spoke of his generosity, his goofy humor, his warmth. Musicians recalled the nights on tour, the laughter, the pranks, the moments that weren't performed on camera but lived deeply in their hearts. And then Jimmy Kimmel stood up. The entire room went still. People sat up straighter. Some placed hands over their mouths, preparing themselves emotionally, because everyone knew this would hurt. Jimmy walked to the front with slow, heavy steps. He wasn't performing. He wasn't hosting. He wasn't the man behind the desk with a witty monologue. He was a broken friend, a grieving brother, someone who had lost a piece of his past he would never get back. He stood by the casket and stared at it for several seconds, unable to speak. His shoulders shook slightly, his jaw clenched, his eyes glistened. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked so unexpectedly that several people in the room burst into tears instantly. "I never thought," he whispered, "I never thought I'd be standing here saying goodbye to my best friend." His voice trembled as he talked about their childhood in Las Vegas, how they were just two kids trying to make something of their lives, how they bonded over music, how Cleto was always the one who believed in Jimmy's dreams even before Jimmy did. He said Cleto was the first person he ever trusted fully in entertainment, the first person he felt safe with, the one constant in a world full of uncertainty. He shared stories about how Cleto helped him push through tough days on the show, how Cleto could calm him down during stressful moments, how he never complained, never sought attention, never asked for more. "He was steady," Jimmy said softly. "A calm I didn't realize I depended on until now." Jimmy paused, swallowed hard, and then reached into his coat pocket. What he pulled out made the room break completely. It was a folded, slightly worn letter, one Cleto wrote to Jimmy years earlier on his birthday. Jimmy held it with trembling fingers. People leaned in, knowing something deep and private was about to spill into the open. Jimmy paused again, voice breaking. He said, "He wasn't just part of the show. He was the show for me." He shared how Cleto brought joy wherever he went, how he could make anyone feel seen, how even in the darkest moments, he somehow made things brighter. And then Jimmy did something no one expected. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, a letter Cleto wrote to him years earlier on his birthday. His hands trembled as he read it out loud. "Jimmy, whatever we go through, whatever life throws at us, just know I'm proud of you, brother. We built this thing together, and no matter what, I'm right beside you, always." When he finished reading, Jimmy couldn't speak. His lips quivered, tears streamed down his face. The room cried with him. People stood, walked toward him, placed hands on his back, hugged him. Cleto's mother and father held him for a long moment, their grief merging with his. After the service, as people stepped outside into the quiet air, conversations weren't about celebrity status or fame or Hollywood. They were about the person Cleto was, the laughter he brought, the kindness he practiced, the humility he carried, the loyalty that made Jimmy call him family long before audiences ever heard the word. People didn't leave feeling like they lost a musician. They left feeling like they lost a friend. If you're still watching, thank you, because this isn't just a story about a funeral. It's about the love we take for granted, the friendships we forget to honor, the people who lift us in ways we don't fully understand until they're gone. Comment below. What Cleto moment from the show stays with you? What do you remember most about him? Like this video if you believe friendships like Jimmy and Cleto's are rare and precious. And subscribe for more stories that reveal the human side of the people we think we know. Rest in peace, Cleto Escobedo. Your music has stopped, but your echo will last forever.